Hey guys, Session Gaming here with another Pokemon Duel video. As you can see, I finally got myself into the Master League in my overall rank, which means these 3x figures are now available in the time boosters that I earn from League games. If you click on the details button, you can see that now. If you look down the list, on the right hand side just above Snorlax, you've got Manaphy. Now if you go back to the league I was in before, the Ultra League, and you look down the list, there will be no Manaphy. And yes, that's correct. So that's basically all that is, guys. My overall monthly ranking at the moment, I'm not too sure where that stands. So if you click on the 6 squares and go to rankings, you can find out where you're actually sitting this month. And we are 1153rd. With a rank of 2061. So, not too bad. If we were to end the month like this, if you hit the rankings detail button, if we ended the month like this, we would be between 1,201 and 3,600. So we'd be getting 7 booster tickets at the moment. We need to get to 1,200 or less to get to 10. In fact, let's see. Oh no, sorry. We were 1,154. So we're already at 10 boosters if we finish the month like this, which is pretty good. Anyway, I promised you guys that I would be doing some kind of strategy videos and some advice on using Shuppet efficiently. And if you don't use Shuppet, you know, the same principles will apply to the surround principle of the game, which is an easy way to attack, defend, and gain advantage. It's a board control method, basically. It's just easier to do that with Shuppet because of its infiltrator ability. But if you're not using Shuppet, there'll be stuff that you can still apply in this, especially with characters that jump over or have the fly away move. So things like Salamence and Ho-Oh and people like that. And if you are lucky enough to have any of the legendary birds, you can slide through. You can basically get a free hurdle jump. And just making use of those things, really. So for this first video, I'm going to do it on a quest game, just so I can get to the setups easily and explain the types of surrounds that I do. And then in the next video, I will do this in I will do it in a league game, basically, and show you in real time action with taking into account the time pressures. So I'll just pick a random one here, level 2, say. Now I've got my current deck that I'm laddering with, which is this one here, which has got a lot of EX figures in, and it's using, you know, plates like Gold Block, which not everybody has. So I've got another deck as well that I'm going to be using, which has got 4 uncommons, 1 EX, and a rare. And the reason I've put 1 EX Blastoise in there is because that was the first EX I got, which was in this 6-tuple pack, and most players do at least have access to 1 EX. It might not be a necessarily useful one, but I made good use of Blastoise when I didn't have many other good figures. And I've got the rare Raichu that you get at the start, evolution built into the Pichu. Now if you want to learn how to set up evolutions, you can see that in the last video. So I will also do some gameplay footage using that deck to show that you can do similar type of things without as good a team. But I'll just use the main squad for now, as I say, because I'm just on the campaign here, and it will be much easier for me to highlight positions. So if we talk about Shuppet first, there's kind of a couple of ways that I'll use him. There's kind of 3 ways, really. The first way is if I see the opponent doesn't have many 3s, so they've got a lot of 2 MP movers or 1 MP movers, which isn't very common at the moment, I'll play a rush style and I'll bring the Shuppet out into one of these inner spaces here, so either of the 2 on the inside square, and I'll try and rush down the opponent and get a fast win. As I've ranked up higher and higher, that has been less viable with Shuppet, and I tend to not bring him out first. So I'm pretty much always bringing out Greninja first because he's the only person that can get onto the second row forwards other than Shuppet. But because I'm not playing aggressively usually. If they've got a lot of 2s and 3s in the deck, like this one, I'm not going to play aggressive. I'm going to play slightly more defensive and try and do surrounds to get my advantages. So in this case, let's see what happens. In this case, we'd win. In a real match now, we'd start pressuring really hard with Greninja and put it up to the thing, and there's actually nothing really they can do about that. It's a guaranteed win. But for the purpose of the video, I'm not going to. I'm just going to set up a structure, which I think is very important for everyone to know who's using Shuppet, which is this. It's 2 Pokemon either side of the Shuppet on this second row in the middle. Now, this is a good example. Where this Tauros has just been moved to, there will often be an enemy Pokemon there, and there will be one on the other corner as well, so opposite the Zapdos and opposite the Greninja. Now, if that Tauros was to move one space forwards and attack my Greninja, and for some reason or another stayed there, they say they have a tie, the Shuppet can actually slide round to where the Tauros is now and capture it. And this is quite a difficult structure for them to do anything, because the Tauros can't move forward and attack because, well, it will either die and I'll get a huge advantage, or it stays, if they draw, I get the advantage of being able to capture it with the Shuppet. So it puts a lot of pressure on the Tauros to win that battle, which is why I tend to, the people that I put either side of the Shuppet tend to be people like Blastoise, that is likely going to win or draw, or Zapdos. Greninja tends to get that spot a lot as well because I bring him out early, but he's got a big dodge, so it's actually pretty good, a pretty good setup, these 3 here. And then all I'll do is the opponent will start bringing out other Pokemon. I'll just start filling out slots here and just bringing everything onto this second row if I can. And if I've got a big time advantage by this time because they've been taking so long at the start, what I'll do is I'll just play defensively and move a Pokemon along the back line, backwards and forwards, like so. So I'll just keep moving the Ho-Oh here, and try and line it up with where they're bringing out figures or where they're putting most of their strength. If they're putting strength on the left side of the board, I'll move it to the left. And I try and do it really, really fast to keep my time advantage. Now, if I'm losing on time, or we're very close on time, this strategy probably isn't going to work, and I don't want to end up running out of time later. So there's a second thing I'll do with the Shuppet. So this is a great example here of the Shuppet capture I was telling you about. If they bring this Pokemon forward and don't attack the Zapdos, or they attack and it's a tie, you can basically get your Shuppet, slide it round here, and you get a capture. And now I have an advantage. Now I won't start pressuring really hard with the Shuppet now, because most likely they've got a lot of Pokemon out, and I'm just gonna end up losing the Shuppet. So I'll usually bring it back somewhere safe to try and do the same thing again. Once there's 2 Pokemon knocked out from theirs that's in the Pokemon Center, and if I've got none in mine, I'm basically 2 Pokemon ahead. That's when I can start applying some sort of pressure. So now I could just do it again and capture the Beedrill. So it's really handy. Now, if it was an actual game now, I would consider not doing it because it will free up a Bayleaf back onto the bench. So I'd usually try and block off some entry points if I can. Or if this Beedrill was a significantly stronger Pokemon, say it was a Zapdos, and they didn't have very good Pokemon in the PC, or they didn't have any in there, I would certainly go ahead and capture that as well. But another way I use the Shuppet early game, sometimes your opponent will know what you're trying to do here with this setup, and they won't bring anything to where this Beedrill is. They'll just hold it back, and they'll just dither around at the back somewhere, moving things about, which is the right thing to do, especially if they've got more time than you. A lot of opponents will also get impatient, and they'll just attack to get something going in the game, and it's not always an optimal attack, and that sometimes can be used to your advantage. But the other thing I try and do is, if they're not going to fall for this, is I bring the Shuppet back here behind the Blastoise or behind the Articuno on the other side. And it doesn't have to be, so they've got a win there, so we'll just bring this here for now just to stall so I can show you what I'm doing. This doesn't have to be these exact Pokemon, guys. This is just roughly what I'm doing. I need 2 Pokemon where the Zapdos and the Articuno are, and the Shuppet in the middle. That's the first structure. It doesn't matter whether it's Zapdos or Articuno, it just has to be 2 Pokemon. Now, if this Beedrill was to the left in front of my Blastoise right now, I could slide the Shuppet up to here and capture it. And that is another thing that happens a lot, because in fact, I can probably give you an example. If I put this Articuno here and end the turn, hopefully they won't win any of these battles. This is why I did it in this mode, guys, just so I had time to set everything up to get the setups to show you. So I bring the Shuppet back here. Hopefully he doesn't win this Ice Charge, that's good. And in fact, what I'm going to do is activate Articuno's ability and freeze that Tauros so it doesn't ruin my plan to show you guys what I'm doing. So if you pretend the frozen Tauros is one of my Pokemon, and I have the Shuppet in the middle again like usual, this is a situation that often happens. I will sometimes bring the Shuppet down, something like this, and it forces the opponent to make a move because they know what you're going to do, and it makes them retreat with the Bayleaf. Well, the Bayleaf actually lost, but I would have, had it have not lost or attacked, I'd have slid the Shuppet to here and captured it. So they're the 2 main ways I'm using Shuppet to capture in a structured manner that I plan to do. Any other time, it's just because I spot an opportunity or I've got a good strength on the board. So other than that, guys, that's kind of the main way I use Shuppet, but you can do this with other Pokemon as well. It's not really, it's just easy with Shuppet because you can slide through. Now, the one thing I would say, and this is probably the best tip you can possibly have in terms of strategy in this game, honestly. Now, if you've played chess or you've got a background in chess, you'll kind of, or any sort of turn-based game, what you want to do is, while it's your opponent's turn, you want to basically think, what is my opponent's best move right now? And then assume that they make that move. So you then know you've got that extra time on your opponent's turn to think about what you're going to do about it. Now, you might struggle to know what their best move is. So when you can't identify their obvious best move, there may not be an obvious best move, all you ask yourself is, what would I not want them to do right now? Say you had only a couple of people on the defense. If they started pressuring really hard for attack, is that something you'd want right now? Probably not. So imagine they do that, and then decide, well, how am I going to stop that? Am I going to switch to total defense now? Or am I going to just have one thing that can deal with this, and I'll keep pushing myself? That's the type of thinking you need to have in this game. What is my opponent going to do? Because if you identify their best move, you basically know how to react, and this is called look ahead. And you know, sometimes you'll look 2 or 3 moves ahead, or you'll set traps. So you'll leave a Pokemon so it can be surrounded deliberately, and they rush in and go for the surround. And whilst they do that, you sneak past and land on the goal point because they were distracted. And in chess, that would be like sacrificing a piece to gain better position. You know, for example, you may give away a knight, but then whilst they took the knight for free, you manage to sneak past with your queen and get a checkmate and win the game. It's a similar principle, guys. So you might see some examples in the league game that I do in the next video of that, where I sort of set some traps, and I'll try and talk as much as I can about the thinking, but because when I play this deck, time is very pressured, it might not be as clear as explanations as in this version where I can set everything up. But also, guys, I will do the video with the slightly weaker squad as well, just to show you that you can be competitive with a weaker squad. I may not win as many league games with it, but you can certainly get to a reasonably decent rank with the other squad that I showed you. And then I guess probably after that video, in terms of strategy, I'll make a deck without Shuppet and just show you roughly how to do that. And another thing I kind of had planned, which I thought would be helpful for some players, is just talking about your win conditions. And we're getting quite long on this video, so I'll leave that to another video. But the way to kind of win the match is to think about what are your win conditions, and a deck like this has multiple win conditions. I could either go on the offensive early with the Shuppet and get a really quick win. I could play really defensive and try and get my opponent to run out of time, or I could do somewhere in between. And choosing to switch between is a really key part of the game, and I'll show you on the league game in the next video how to do that, because it will absolutely come up. There will be times where I'm losing the match and I need to go on the defensive, and there will be a turning point, and then I'll start to apply pressure, and knowing when that turning point is essential to winning the match at higher ranks. You've got to capitalise when you've got an advantage, and you've got to make sure you're not being capitalised against when you're at a disadvantage as best you can. So the game will swing from your favour to your opponent's, and it's about applying pressure with the swing in their direction. So anyway guys, I hope this helps people, especially people using Shuppet, for a couple of little ideas you can do to trap their surrounds early. And if you don't use Shuppet, don't worry, a couple of videos time I'll do it without Shuppet, and try and give you some tips on that as well. But yeah, as I say guys, next video will be some league play. Thanks for watching. If this helped or you enjoyed it, give it a thumbs up. If you've got any tips or suggestions to improve these videos, leave us a comment and I'll certainly do my best to implement what advice you can give me. Cheers guys.